Hey everyone, how's everyone doing today? Today we are doing an episode of Transformation Time. This is a show where you get to hear about our guest speakers' personal development journeys and mindset shifts that they go through their journey. So the changes they've had to make to get to where they are, the sacrifices they've had to make to get to where they are, and the changes they're making right now to get to those goals they're trying to hit for the future. So let me see if I can get Randall on. I'm going to just awesome. We got it. We got it working.
Finally, we got it working.
Awesome. So as I was saying, so this is transformation time, and my mission is to get our viewers to understand the importance of real estate and to get to whatever their goal of financial freedom is. So like that, we have people like Randall, uh, Randall Hoeber, who will come on, is our guest speaker today, who's going to tell us about his personal development journey, his mindset shifts as he's gone through this. So thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm glad we were able to get this live glitch figured out.
100%. So let's start with just something simple. Let's start with what kind of real estate investor are you? Anything you'd like to share about where you are right now in real estate?
Currently, I'm in the multifamily investing world. I started in the single family and just sort of graduated, scaled up into multifamily. And so for me, it's trying to get to the next level of multifamily properties from the 8s, 12s up to the bigger projects.
Awesome. And so let's go back now to the beginning where you even just started thinking about real estate. Like, what made you even think to get into real estate or that even that's an option?
Yeah, that was a great question. It actually started several years ago when a good friend of mine who I worked with, he started buying properties in the United States in back when it crashed, and he would buy single families, duplexes, and we'd spend hours in my office over the course of a few days talking about real estate, and he'd be sharing with me all his stories. And after years of listening to him, I'm like, why wouldn't I do something like that? Like it makes sense, there's that aha moment, right? So that
Mhm.
led to one thing led to another, and then we bought a property down in the United States. My wife and I did, and then for the next several
That's
years,
awesome.
yeah, it was kind of a risky. It was risky. It was challenging. We were never done it before, so it was like, well, let's do it. The prices in the United States are so good then compared to Canada, so that's why we selected something south of the border.
That's awesome. And you're right, for a lot of people that especially are Canadians, even going over the board, that just sounds very scary. A lot of people want to like try to start from home first. So did your friend help you, I guess, to get you to make it an easier process for you to invest in the US?
Well, he explained the basic steps, which was qualifying for mortgage. Financing is usually the biggest challenge. Honestly, we didn't know. My wife and I didn't know all the steps involved. But if we would have waited until we knew everything, we probably never would have done it. So we knew some basics, and then just went out, found a property, made a few phone calls, got a realtor to do a live video for us through FaceTime, and after that, it was just, let's just get it done.
That's awesome. And that's a great point that you bring up, actually. We're never going to know everything in every deal, especially when we're starting from the beginning. There's always going to be things that stress us out or that we just don't account for because it's the first time. It's like you're new, but you're never going to know everything. And it's just part of the deal of getting into anything. So that's a great point that I just wanted to highlight because a lot of people do get stuck in analysis paralysis and just think that, and I could say I'm one of those, like I just like love to have as much information as possible and I like get way too much that I even need to know. And to even say, with all the information I get, I still always get like something new always
Yep.
seems to like hit me with something new that I wouldn't have thought of because especially I feel like in our area, when it comes to real estate, the kind of real estate that we do, um, you will always get like some little unique thing here or there that that you don't realize or that's new to you because I even get some now.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
been doing it for a while.
Same here. Yeah, you'll never know everything you need to know. When maybe if you've been doing it for 30, 40 years, there's always something new that comes along, and you just have to
Mm-hmm.
pivot and learn from that. And if you make a mistake, that's okay too, because you're going to learn from that mistake.
100%. And so when you started getting into real estate, and specifically when you started to make it really more of a business and hone in on like, this is what I want to do, what would you say are the skills that you had in the past that helped you and maybe even didn't realize that could help you in the real estate side?
Well, a couple of things. Those are really good questions. So one of them for me was I'm a pretty diligent and studious individual. So I would dive into the numbers and analyze, and it would get to the point where analysis paralysis, like you mentioned, can hold you back. So it was get the basic information, understand those numbers enough that I can explain that to someone else, and then go and take action. And then the other part that I was going to comment on was that if you wait for all the conditions to be right, it's probably there's always going to be something that's going to be a reason why it's not right. So it's eventually
Mm-hmm.
you just have to say, I'm going to take action, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to learn from it, and we're going to move forward. Always moving forward, being unstoppable. That's one of my latest terms and words I like to refer to as being unstoppable.
100%. We will always be able to find an excuse for why we don't want to do it. So it's just like, or I think I would say like, how actually for you, how have you, what have you done to stop the excuses from coming and just be like, I'm doing it. Like you've done the enough detail, like what is the detail that you need or what do you need, how do you need to, like what do you need to feel that you're like, I'm good with whatever problems come up because I've done enough due diligence or I've taken into as many the scenarios into consideration that I need.
I always remind myself what I'm trying to accomplish in the long term. The vision, the why. I have a vision board in my office here that I refer to on a regular basis. I've got some other visual reminders, but for me, it's generally why am I trying to accomplish this in the first place, and is it holding me back if it's not a perfect deal? And if I wait for the
Mm-hmm.
deal to be perfect, it may never come along. So it's make this
100%.
good deals. Good deals can be found, but good deals can be made. And so for me, it's
Completely
more
agree.
about making it happen with the knowledge and skills that I have versus
Mm-hmm.
waiting for the perfect one to come along, which may never happen.
Right, right. And so any other skills that you'd like to talk about that you didn't realize that were transferable into getting into real estate?
I've worked 28 years in a correctional environment. I just shut that down, retired from that government job in September of last year. And it didn't really occur to me till just recently that one of the skills that I had to learn real fast was establishing rapport with the inmates. There wasn't a lot of time to like over the course of multiple months of establishing that rapport. I had to get good at doing it real quick because there was that rapport and that trust that was needed in order to have that really serious conversation with that particular individual about how can they make changes in their lives so they don't return to jail. And so I realized that my skill in establishing that rapport is really solid. And so how I can
That's
relate that
awesome.
real estate world is the ability to like connect with potential investors or partners very quickly so that we can start, establishing some trust. Because if they don't trust me, they're not going to want to do business with me.
100%. And I think that's a great point that you make because, and what I'm trying to get at is that, like that, I think a lot of people are like, oh my God, I can't get into real estate. I don't know anything. And that's it. And Like if you look at your past, there's always things that you have there that you can leverage to get to where to help you and tweak it to work for real estate. So I love that. I love that, you were able to, you realized that you were creating rapport in your job, and then you just, I'm sure, had to tweak it a bit to work for the real estate side of things. So that's awesome. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
What about sacrifices? Um, what kind of sacrifices maybe you did realize or didn't realize, and they kind of happened along the way, especially like that, like once you started going to full time or you're preparing to get to a like being full time real estate investor?
You know, I'm actually more busy now since I've retired from working in government than I was before. When I was working in the government with my corrections job, I was doing, it's almost like real estate was a side gig. I was trying to grow that real estate portfolio, but it was still in essence a side gig because I had a full-time job. And on those
Mhm.
days where I was working, I might only working at the government job, I might only put in like an hour towards the real estate business. Now I'm at it every day, Monday through Saturday, maybe even a few times on Sunday, and I'm probably putting in 8, 9 hours a day. Whereas before I was only squeezing in a few days and maybe 3 days a week or whatever. So I've actually probably putting in, I know for a fact I'm putting in more time now than I was before I was retired. So in sacrifices, it's like sacrificing some personal time. It's sacrificing some time with my family and, trying to figure out how I can weave, a little extra time here and there along the way. But that for me, that's been the biggest one.
And was that something, and that sounds like it was something that was completely unexpected, I guess. Or did you expect that, like, once you retire, you're going to be putting a lot more time into it?
I knew that I'd be putting time into it, but I didn't realize I'd be putting this much time into it. Things escalated for me really quickly. I was when I made the decision that I wanted to scale up into multifamily. One of the biggest questions I had to ask myself was, how am I going to do this? Who do I know? Who can give me education on it? All those questions that were
Mhm.
lingering in my mind as I'm trying to decide: do I stick with the single family or do I scale up into larger projects, requiring me to partner up with people, which I'd never done before. I'm fortunate that I connected with some people that have already done what I was trying to accomplish. They needed some boots on the ground people in Saskatchewan, and I became that guy. And I got busy real fast, way quicker than what I actually thought I would. And it continues to this very day. Like it's just more opportunities coming my way that are making me creating more opportunities for the long term, but making me extremely busy for the short term. Way busier than I ever thought. But it's good.
That's
I'm building a
awesome.
very good
That's
future.
great. And that's just not only a tribute to the mentor, because obviously mentorship helps a lot, but
Absolutely.
also to the network. The network is so impactful because it's like that, like once you start meeting people, like maybe the first one or two people have nothing to do with anything, maybe just friends, maybe nothing. But as you start going through it, you really start finding those people that you can connect with and actually get things to work and start running. And just like a little plug-in, since we're talking about networking, I want to let all the viewers know that my networking event is in 2 weeks. And actually, I don't know if you know Randall, but Veteran is going to be our guest speaker, and he's going to be
Awesome.
sharing with us how to how to network effectively online and how to meet those right people that are either there to help us get motivated or to add to our power team. So I just wanted to add that since we were talking about networking. But yeah, back on to you. So, and just guys, so if you want to definitely be a part of it, because you should, because networking, like we're talking about right now, it's so important. It's pivotal. It is the
Yeah.
life-changing part to where we get to where we want to be. Get into my bio and buy your tickets now, because it's something you don't realize the impact until you're in it, right? Like, did
Yeah.
you realize
Exactly.
how impactful networking was until like you started getting into things?
You know what? I didn't really understand the power of it. I knew it was important for me to network and to connect with people that were like-minded, that were interested in accomplishing the same goals. I also knew that I had to connect with people that were ahead of me on that journey, that had done it. So it was two things: getting comfortable just networking in general, and then getting comfortable connecting with people that were more experienced than I was, and trying to weave my way into that, into that network. And that's where the establishing of rapport for me became so pivotal because of my ability to do that from my years of working in the corrections environment. But I never, like I said, never realized how powerful and important it was until I got connected with people that were able to get me involved in deals because of their connections and their networks.
100% agree. And getting into those right communities that actually like that motivate you, incentivize you, empower you to want to even do better, right? Or like that, like finding those positive, like getting into the right communities too is obviously like very important.
Yeah,
And like that,
and
I was
it's
the
really,
same. I did not realize the power of networking until you started getting into those like really good networking type of communities where it's about empowering others, working with each other, not in competition, but working with
right.
each other. Or I mean, there's
Exactly.
competition, but like the healthy competition, right?
Like the funny thing is when you get involved in working in real estate, where you have the same goals in mind. You want to be successful, you want to accomplish
Mhm.
something, and you want to be able to grow and further that with another property. So everybody's got the same interest in mind. So yeah, there's competition, but really it's more about bringing value to each other. And the other part I want
100%.
to mention about the networking, Diana, is it's also brought me into contact with other people from within their network. And I've had
Hmm.
people from within those networks that don't know me contact me directly through usually through Facebook Messenger and say, hey, so and so recommended we talk because we were looking at properties in Saskatchewan and they've recommended that we talk to me specifically. And these are people
Hmm.
that I've never met before that are within that network. So it's not just me networking directly, but it's indirectly through their networks. So that's even more
100%.
powerful.
Yes, yeah. And like that, keeping your eyes open to it and just, like that, like just like that, like one person you network with, nothing resolved from it, but maybe they think of you in the future and they're like, oh, I know this
Yeah,
person that works in Saskatchewan, go call Randall because he will get you connected and give you like help you out with whatever you need.
yeah,
And so just like you just never know where things can come from and the power of networking.
yeah, yeah.
So what about the limiting mindset, like the mindset shifts that you went through? So I feel like you were talking about before that you went from small units to multi-family bigger ones. How was that for you? Was it scary to go into those bigger numbers? And how
If
did you like conquer the fears of just like, I'm gonna do it. There's an extra few zeros in there, but it's happening.
Well, there's still some fear on at times about the bigger you get, the more challenges that come your way, and you overcome those challenges, and then you're gonna get bigger, and then you got more trying. It continues. It's like reciprocating, or it's like a cycle that perpetuates itself as you get bigger. For me, when I first started in single family, it never even occurred to me like buying an apartment building. Not for me. I don't know how to do it. I don't understand it. I don't have the money. Blah 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 blah. Excuse after excuse, limiting belief after limiting belief. Then I made a decision I wanted to get into multifamily because I realized that I could the economies of scale and scaling up can get me to my goals quicker. So now my head slowly started to wrap around the idea of getting into apartment buildings. Then I realized I need coaching. So then one of the limiting beliefs was before I believed I could find everything that I needed to know on my own, and I did need a coach to walk me through it, guide me, teach me, mentor me. So then the new belief was I do need coaching and mentoring. So opening up my mind to receiving coaching and feedback from others. So that was a change of a limiting belief, moving from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. And since I moved to an abundance mindset, more opportunities of abundance keep throwing my way, over and over and over again. Whereas before, it's like that reticulator activating system. Once you see it, it's like now they're everywhere. Now I got to start seizing these opportunities, whereas before I didn't even see those opportunities. So a lot of
Mhm.
mindset shifts that have occurred in the last 2.5 years.
100%. And so, like you're talking about that scarcity, anything in particular that either helped you change or like had to, or you noticed that you had to change to remove that scarcity mindset?
One of the
Any,
questions,
like basically
yeah,
any tips that you'd like to give
yeah,
to the viewers?
yeah. One of my coaches told me to every day write out a question. What do you believe and why do you believe it, and is it holding you back or not? I just lost one of my AirPods.
No problem. But yeah, that's a great one because it helps you just, I guess, like that, like reinforce that you can do it and that it's not, and it's just, it's like, I like to say, like a brainwashing, right? You're just like, let's wash out all this negativity that I think, I'm thinking all these things and let's kind of put in some better words in there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Can you hear me still with this one in?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So when I was doing that exercise, it was like I realized that there were a lot of beliefs that were ingrained in me when I was young that I still carry to this day. And I never questioned those beliefs or those messages because it was never pointed out to me that, hey, maybe you should reevaluate some of these beliefs that you have. And once you start peeling back the layers of the onion and you realize that most of these messages around scarcity and or abundance come from when you're a child and they just become continuously reinforced over and over and over again. Well, if you don't become aware of it, you won't change. So the purpose of
Hmm.
that question was to become aware of some of these things that were holding me back, what the message was, why is it holding me back, and how do I overcome it. And that was a big mind shifter for me. Like it was a game changer, and that's what really got my mind open to abundance. And it's just becoming more opportunities, like I say, and more opportunities and more opportunities because of the change in my mindset.
That's a great point that you point out about to the past that you don't like that. Like a lot of us don't realize that we have the limiting beliefs, or even that it is a limiting belief. Like that, or sorry, that we can change it. And so when you really start, especially if someone kind of makes you aware of it and starts questioning it and going back into your path, and actually analyzing what's happened, you're right, it's very interesting to realize, oh my God, I've had this limiting belief and I didn't even know it was there, or
Yeah,
I have it and then I've changed it and now I feel so much better.
yeah, and you know what I also learned too, Diana, is I was reinforcing or passing on some of those beliefs to my children. And once I realized that these were limiting beliefs, scarcity mentality that I had, that I was passing on to my kids, I had to stop what I was communicating to them and communicate them essentially the opposite.
Hmm.
Because I
Yeah,
realized that,
that's also interesting, like
yeah,
stopping yourself, right? Sometimes you don't even realize what you're saying is negative, right? Until someone's like, oh, you're saying it in this way, and you shouldn't, don't say that to yourself, say this. And it's
yeah,
just like, once you see that, especially when they tell you how to say it, you really you realize the complete difference in what you're doing. And like you said, then you're like, oh my God, I shouldn't even be saying that, because like that, you're obviously influencing the people around you too.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, another great point. I think that's another great point because that's something actually I'm going through a phase of, is that not realizing some of the words. Because I've learned, for example, like the excuses, that one I learned quite quickly, that not to make excuses, but I didn't realize I would still, like, I would do things, but I realized that I was still coming with like a little bit of negativity, I guess, like certain ways I would say things that aren't the right way. And then like
Yeah,
that, people making me aware of, you're like, say it this way, don't say that. And then I was, it clicks in like, oh my God, that, why am I saying it that way? And you don't even realize that it's not a good thing to say. Like you think it's completely normal.
yeah, yeah. It's the power of words, right? And
The
how we use
power
it.
of words. Yeah, I completely agree. You don't realize how powerful they are until like that, until the awareness comes and
Yeah,
people start helping you to correct it and change it. And like you start noticing the impact in you because you do, I don't know, with me, I had a situation happen where like that we were changing the words that I used for myself, and I felt a lot lighter. Like it felt made me feel like, oh, this is a nice way to view, in my situation, it was, I didn't realize that I still from young, I felt, that I wasn't good enough. I thought, to be honest, I thought I conquered that like back in university, like, because I've had so many great things happen.
Mhm.
I thought I conquered it, right? And it wasn't until I had a conversation with someone where it wasn't that I conquered it. I think I would battle with it. Like it was there, but I would be like, no, I can battle it, right? Whereas like now it's like I've been given words to actually conquer it and not actually make it like a battle within my mind to
Yeah,
push forward.
yeah, yeah.
hmm Yeah, so yeah, those kind of things, yeah, like that mindset is so interesting. Any other mindset shifts that you felt that you've gone through?
Those would probably be the biggest ones. I still struggle sometimes with imposter syndrome because I want to get big, and sometimes I have to like portray myself as trying to get there, and then I have this little thing, like it's almost like a leash. It's kind of like pulling me back again to, hey, don't be that guy because you're not that guy, and that's always a battle going on, right? And it's that be do have. I got to be that guy to get to where I'm trying to go,
hmm
and not do it the other way around. So it's still an ongoing mindset shift, and it's I'm gotta say I'm 52 years old in like 2 weeks from now, and so there's a lot of stuff crammed up in this old cranium here that I have to almost like shut down and reboot in some fashion, and it's
hmm
it's it's trying to emerge from you know it's like you see a caterpillar climbing up a tree. And what's a caterpillar can't go very far. It's basically grounded to whatever it can stick to. The ground, the tree branch. It'll cling to a branch. It'll build its cocoon, and it'll eventually emerge as a butterfly. And when it comes out of that cocoon as a butterfly and it can fly anywhere it wants to go, it is literally unstoppable. And that's how I envision my growth from that caterpillar kind of skulking around on the ground to the butterfly that's emerging from the cocoon and is unstoppable from that point on.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a great analogy. I love that analogy actually. But it's very true, especially like that the phases that you go through, right? And even like that feeling stuck or the challenges that you have to like hit to get to the next level. How has changing yourself been? Like, what are the struggles when you have to change yourself to get to the next levels? Like, how hard is it for you to, make like, I need to make this change?
Well, I have to get comfortable becoming uncomfortable. I got to get out of that comfort zone. But when you come out of that comfort zone, you're initially uncomfortable. The more you do
hmm
it, the more comfortable you become. And then it's like, okay, where's the next area of uncomfortability that I have to push through? So here's a perfect example. If someone would have asked me 2-3 years ago, hey, do you want to jump on an Instagram live and start talking about your story? I don't think I would have done it. I'd have said, no, it's not for me. I'm not comfortable
hmm
being in front of the camera. I'm more comfortable being the behind the scenes guy. And now this
hmm
gets me front and center. So it's trying to
hmm
become more comfortable doing things like that. And it's just constantly pushing that envelope to comfortability because if you stay in your comfort zone, then there's no growth. And so it's still an ongoing
100%.
thing for me.
Yeah, and like you're basically alluding to you're an introvert because I'm also an introvert and it's funny the things that you say are the
Yeah.
exact same things, right? Exactly what you said. I would never ever be caught dead in a live if you asked me probably a little bit more 3 years ago. Like I would have been like, "Are you crazy? Like don't even same thing. I'm in the background and I'm good. I'm a little flower on against the wall and like leave me there, I'm good to go." So how was that for you? Because as an introvert, I would say at least how I notice it with me is that I feel like, for example, I have like my battery full and it depletes. And for example, things like that, like let's say lives or meetings with people really depletes my battery and I like need to recharge. And I'm one of those like, I'm gonna go hide somewhere and I need like time. Like how has how has being an introvert and what kind of changes have you had to do because of like how you are as an introvert and having to, for example, like that, like going on lives, like what are things that you've noticed that you're having to work on?
Well, one thing I do is I always make sure I have time for myself in the morning for exercise. So
Mm-hmm.
I generally block out time and I'm going to go, that's for me. In the evening, I go to bed early. So because I know I'm getting up early in the morning, I'm an early riser. So I go to bed early and I try to have those little bit of a time in between where I just kind of relax. My wife and I just kind of hang out and we just kind of watch a little bit of TV and decompress, and then I go to bed. But I'll go for a walk. I'll get my dogs, take them with me or whatever. But it's actually, believe it or not, it's not as challenging to recover from being an introverted person and getting out in front of people as I used to be. It used to be really challenging to even set foot away, like you say, up against the wall, right? That flower up against the wall. It used to be really challenging for me to even like push off that wall and become in front of people's faces. And now it's easier for me to do that, and it's actually easier for me to recover. But it's also in smaller settings. Now, if I was to take that and put that in a setting of say 150 people, I might be that fly on the wall again. Who knows? But it's still
Mm-hmm.
an ongoing thing to learn to adjust. But definitely, I'm adjusting to it and recovering easier and quicker than I actually thought the previous X number of years, where I knew that even in a government as a government employee, go to conferences, just sit at my table, let people go around and socialize and network, but not me. But that's
Mm-hmm.
changed. With that as my
Yeah.
confidence in that as well, right?
That's awesome. And for example, like because let's say like I don't know how many meetings you have, like let's say in a week, but do you feel like having meetings and talking with people doesn't that don't you feel like you're like losing energy by the end of the meeting and need to take a break?
Yeah,
Um, how has that been like or like because I know for example I'm guessing from you I feel like we have a lot of similarities like I'm also an early morning person. I love going to bed early, like same thing. I need to have like my 2 hours in the morning to just decompress, do my exercises. So I'm
yeah,
curious that because with me for example like if I have more than 3 meetings in a day I am like bedtime like I'm like where is my bed? I was like
yeah, yeah,
struggles.
yeah.
How's it for you?
Usually at that point in time, if I've had like back to back to back meetings, then I'm pretty wiped. I try to keep it that I use like booking Calendly, and I try to keep pretty firm with that. That I will have meetings between 10 and 12, and then I'll have meetings again between 4 in the afternoon and 6 in the afternoon, and then I'll try and
Hmm.
keep my middle time to take care of some other stuff so that I'm not going through an entire day of nothing but phone calls. But sometimes I need to go outside that window. If I'm having a longer for a really good call with potential partner on a deal, then I'm not just gonna like suddenly shut it down because I'm at that limit. I'm just gonna keep
Hmm.
going. But sometimes I'll be like, yeah,
Yeah.
I have supper, and it's like I say to my wife Alex, I say, Alex, I'm done. I'm after supper. I said I'm parking my butt on the couch. I'm going for a walk, and then I'm parking my butt on the couch, and I'm just like and I might even fall asleep and have a quick little power snooze or something like that.
I
But
hear
it's
you.
usually
It's the
7 or 8.
same for me. Yeah, especially like you said, like sometimes same thing. Like you have way more meetings or more things that you do that are for us as introverts that drain us. But at the same time, like you go get it done, but it's like one of those like I'm exhausted, battery is like at minus 10, like minus 50, and you're like, I need to hit the bed like right now.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Very similar for sure.
That's so interesting. And as an introvert, any other things that you've gone through that, let's say, made you realize that, you have to change or that they just even came organically having to change?
I realized when I started really trying to escalate the real estate investing business that I was using being an introvert as an excuse to not socialize with people and get out of that comfort zone. I was comfortable and happy in that comfort zone. And I
Mm-hmm.
realized that I need to shift that and get out of that comfort zone. So that was the biggest challenge is that I realized how many years in the past did I waste or did I use that as an excuse to avoid certain scenarios. Now I don't use it as an excuse. It's like I actually use it to motivate me because I'll say, yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be tough and difficult, but it's not as tough as it was the first time I did it. It gets easier and
Mm-hmm.
easier, and then it gets me in front of more people because I know that in order for me to be successful as a real estate investor and hit the goals that I'm trying to accomplish and the financial freedom that I'm going to create as a result, not just for myself but for my partners, is I can't let being an introvert as an excuse. I have to use it as a motivator to get in front of people, to have
Totally.
those networking opportunities, right?
Totally agree. And I'm curious actually, because one of the things that I actually enjoy about being an introvert is that I love like the one-on-ones and I like to like deep dive into people and be like, who are you and get to know you. And I feel like that's very much an introvert quality because normally extroverts are very like group of people. Like you put me in a group to try to talk to like five people at the same time. I'm like the mute. I'm like, I don't know how to deal with that situation. I don't know how to have surface conversations. I'm a very like, let's get into your life. I want to know you and get to know you because I find it so cool.
Yeah. Introverts generally are observed better. They're not as good as reading the room as maybe an extrovert can be. But I believe introverts pay more attention to the details of conversations and in the environment that they're in, and can kind of
Mhm.
pinpoint who you can sit down and have those one-on-one conversations with. Because if you're an extrovert, extroverts talk lots. This is my wife. She's an extrovert. She can go in there and she can talk to every single person in the room and come down and say, she's just revved up. She's ready to roll because she's being an extrovert. Whereas me, it would
Mhm.
be the opposite. But I tend to really focus more on the listening component of it. And because I'm establishing rapport, it's easier to do that in a one-on-one, like you said, than it is to do that in a table full of a bunch of people. So
I
those deep.
agree. And that even just talks on the the benefits of both sides, right? Introverts and extroverts, like that. I think in an introvert, it's all about the one-on-ones and getting to know people. I think it's just like it's fun when it's one-on-one because you can really deep dive into people's lives, and I personally find it a lot of fun. Whereas like extroverts, they like bring everyone to the table, right? Like, oh my God, you have to meet this person and that person. And
Yeah,
like you said,
yeah,
like that, like our battery starts depleting at a party. Like we come with 100% battery at the party. The extrovert comes like with zero. And then by the end, the extrovert's like, I don't want to leave. Let's keep
that's
on doing
right.
it. And I'm like, ready for bed. Let's
Yeah,
let's let's get
exactly.
going.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
that's so
so that's the
interesting.
thing with being so when you look at that from a real estate investor perspective, if I'm going to a networking event, what I normally would have done was just kind of sit there and let everybody else kind of do their thing. I make a presence, but I don't stand out because I'm just a guy sitting there and not involved in conversations, quiet. I'm not memorable. Extroverts are can be very memorable because they can work a crowd. So for me, it's
Hmm.
getting out of that comfort zone, doing something that's going to make me memorable, even if it's with just one person. And that's that one-on-one
100%.
conversation.
That's what I was gonna say. We become introverts are more memorable with the one-on-ones because we kind of like really get to know who it is we're talking about, and then they like it because you're like, oh, what about this or that? Where extroverts are more about the general, like high-level conversations where they're probably known for them themselves, whereas introverts are known for themselves as like just, wow, this person knows everything, knows so much about me, or like is interested in me and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Awesome. And so what changes are you doing right now? Or before we get to that, actually, which comes together, like what changes are you doing right now and to get to the goals that you want to achieve in the future and your 5 to 10 year goals. And if you want to share those goals and tell us what are the changes that you're seeing you have to do now to achieve them.
Well, one of the things that is a challenge to me right now that I'm trying to overcome is that in order for me to grow my real estate investing business, is I need to have contact with people that are willing to bring capital into deals. And so really what it comes down to is asking. And I'm not comfortable asking for what I want. I'm more comfortable giving, or because I spent 15 on my 28 years in corrections giving direction to people and telling them how to do things. There never really was an ask involved. I never had to really sell anything to anybody. Even like an idea, I didn't ever really have to sell an idea. So now I have to
Mm-hmm.
sell. I have to ask things that I'm not comfortable doing, things I'm not very good at, that I'm still constantly learning through my other mentor and coach that I'm working with right now on how to raise capital, is getting better and more comfortable just asking. And then from there,
Mm-hmm.
starting to refine that skill so that it becomes more of competent, like being really competent at what I'm trying to accomplish or what I'm trying to do in order to accomplish that goal. So that's the next big thing for me is just getting better at that and getting, first of all, getting more comfortable in the first place, asking and trying to sell versus tell. I was more of a teller because that was my role when I was in jail. Now I got to be more of a seller. Bit of a challenge
Mm-hmm.
making that shift.
Yeah, that is a very. I'm the same. I wasn't before very. I mean, I'm still improving a lot. Don't get me wrong, but I would say more that I had a very negative view on selling, and I'm curious. Um, and even if you've have you got? Because it sounds like you probably also had a negative view of selling, or just didn't like it. Like, how have you got over that?
That's a really
Um,
good question because Diana, it was rejection. It was fear of rejection. It was knowing that when I ask a question, it can be a real simple yes, it can be a real simple no, or it can be really complicated. But
mhm.
whenever you keep asking, there was always that fear that the person's going to say no, and that rejection could be reflected on me personally versus just in general. And so,
Mhm,
and that still kind of lingers. It still kind of lingers.
mhm.
It's something that I have to overcome. But really, that fear of rejection was probably the biggest barrier to trying to get comfortable asking. And now I'm
Awesome.
insulated better. I'm more mature than what I was
Mhm,
previously. So, and I'm older, and I'm seeing now that okay, one no just leads to another yes somewhere else. If and only
mhm,
if you keep asking. If you
mhm.
stop asking,
And
you're going
learning
to get
from your mistakes.
and learn from your mistakes. Yeah, what did I go wrong? Did I
Mhm,
did I ask the wrong question at the wrong time? Did I not ask enough questions? Was I too forceful because I went straight into telling somebody about all the features of this deal before even asking some of the questions? So that's it. It's more the nuances, right? But but
100%.
to answer your question, the fear of rejection was the biggest thing that was holding me back from even trying to consider selling somebody an idea like a real estate investment, and how it
And
could lead to their goals that they're trying to accomplish.
do you have like any tip, like what did you do to get over, or obviously like that, we never get over it. I don't think there's always going to be the fears, but to, I guess, minimize the fear of rejection.
The biggest thing is just keep asking. I would practice.
Practicing, right?
Obviously, I'm practicing some questions. I'm going through some stuff. I have some practices that I do every day or I try to do every week, reviewing some things. Sometimes I just go over and I review things I've read before to refresh my memory. I got to do some mindset stuff to refresh my memory as to why I'm trying to push myself outside that comfort zone. So it may not be the actual skill itself, but going through some mindset stuff or a review to remind myself
Mm-hmm.
why I'm trying to do this in the first place. Sometimes I have to look
Mm-hmm.
up at my vision board. I got to look at the vision that of my 5-year plan that I wrote. Any of those things is
Mm-hmm.
going to remotivate me again to like overcome and keep pushing forward.
100%. And so the final question, well, actually, it was the question, but I don't think you answered it, so I'm gonna re-ask it again. But so,
Okay.
what is
Sure.
your 5 to 10 year goal? And it can be both in real estate and personal. Like, what are those goals, like those big goals that you want to achieve?
Well, here's the thing. This actually ties nicely into mindset again because when I started thinking about acquiring multifamily properties, I was asked, well, what's a 5-year goal? And I thought that my 5-year goal of like 100 doors in 5 years, basically 20 doors a year for 5 years, I thought that was a very big goal. I'd never done it before. I'd never acquired a multifamily building when I set those goals. So I thought this is going to be a real serious challenge. I'm going to set a goal, but I'm not going to set like a big audacious goal of like $1,000 and you know, something that might be unreachable when truly I thought $100 was unreachable. But you know, want to know something really intriguing is I met somebody who said we can get like $40, $50 in like 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd open up my eyes, were like, wow, my mind just went. So I haven't changed it.
Especially
It's
where they're like,
still 100.
why not just get one building for 40 units and you're basically already halfway there and you're like,
Yeah,
oh yeah.
exactly.
You're like, that's pretty easy now.
Exactly. Yeah. So I could like, so my goal was still $100 by January 2026. I'm halfway there. And I made that goal
Awesome.
two years ago. So that's the thing. Like I thought it was a big goal. Turns out I was thinking small. I thought I was thinking big. I was thinking small because I was
Mhm.
working with people who thought bigger, who'd already accomplished bigger things, who had bigger goals.
Hmm. And again, a great point about your network, right? When you have people that have bigger goals than you, or they're far more along than you, they really help you open up your eyes quicker and faster because they just like as you watch them or as you work with them, you see how how much how it's not that bad, I guess is what I would say. Like I think we make it seem so much worse, and then when you're watching, people are like, oh, that's not that bad. Why was I thinking like this is the worst thing in the world, or like that, like this is going to be a 5 to 10 year plan and it's actually a lot shorter.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that was
Awesome.
one of
Thanks
the
so much
biggest.
for
That was one of
sharing.
the big
Sorry,
mind blowing. No, I said that
pardon?
was one of the big mind blowing. That was one of the big mind blowing mindset shift things too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. It was so fun to pick your brain, get to know you more, and share your story with everyone. Because, like I said, it's always great to hear everyone's stories because as the viewers, it helps the viewers even see, you know, themselves and people and picking the right people. So if you love what Randall said and you connect with him, like go and follow him or like him on Facebook, because then you can see how he's doing things. And if you feel like you're on that path, I mean, at least you have your role model to get going forward. So thanks so much, Randall, for sharing your story. Thank you, everyone, for coming on for this episode of Transformation Time.
Thanks for the
I will
invite, yeah. Appreciate it.
And we'll see everyone in the next episode. So if you liked it, like the show, like Randall, like mine, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye everyone. Oh, I don't know why I always struggle to, there we go.